I was just thinking of your angle is unique because of your dissertation and all of your ministry work. But what would you say to pastors who want to better communicate or equip their communicate to or
Funny
equip?
that you asked
Yeah.
that, because my entire 5th chapter in my dissertation talks about that.
Oh, you could just start reading. I guess it's just like if I was
Or
a
at least the
pastor
audiobook.
or anybody in the circle, for example, like these are people that I get to spend a lot of time with. And so maybe that's why I have that lens is like, it's like, you know what, I get what you're saying. But I have to preach each weekend.
Right.
And that's kind of like my focus or something like that. Or I'm equipping leaders in my church. So it's like, what in the world would you say to them who don't really think about calling in vocation all that often?
So this is what I found. So the pastors that I talked to who made this their paradigm, the first thing they did was they taught the biblical story of creation, fall, redemption, consummation. They saw that as foundational. In other words, they saw that God's mission is ultimately to restore the way life is always meant to be, right? Redeeming human image bearers, like we were talking about. So that becomes a major part of what they actually preach every Sunday to help their people understand what you need to do is become a human, a restored human, right? And restored humans do what restored humans do. They bring blessing. So that's the first thing. Pastor said that they were intentional with their language from the pulpit and in discipleship to avoid a secular sacred divide. Like, this is what's really important, but your work doesn't really matter. I was in a church for a number of years where the pastor never said it explicitly, but implicitly, just about every sermon was, if you're a really good Christian, you become a missionary. Or you'd become a pastor like me, or you'd do something, but you folks who are just normal coming here, you're just like kind of second-class Christians. These pastors caught themselves in that kind of language and stopped it. They stopped it in its tracks. All things are meant to be sacred. The sacred secular divide is wrong. And so not just the churchy things like worship and prayer and evangelism, but your actual secular work, you're actually, we talk a lot about family, right? In churches, family is important, but we don't talk a lot about the other 45 hours a week that people deal with. So another thing the pastors did were they developed relationships, actually visiting people in their workplaces. Pastors used to do visitations all the time in homes and in hospitals. That's kind of fallen by the wayside. But these pastors, they said, my visitation is, I'd say, hey, Joe, can I meet you at your work? Pastors oftentimes have lunches with their congregants, right? Hey, can we get to lunch? Instead, these pastors are saying, hey, let's have lunch, but can I show up like half hour early and you could like walk me around your workplace? Tell me what you do. Tell me what you struggle with.
I think there are just walls. There are walls there, I mean, and that is breaking down walls, I feel like. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm saying it's like, that's really making a statement to invite someone into that space as well. Into your home is one thing, into your work is another thing. And that's good advice. Yeah.
And what I guarantee pastors is that, pastors are, we preach every week. I was a church planting pastor, everybody. I preached every single week, and they struggle with relevant illustrations about what this Bible passage means. I guarantee you this: if you start visiting people in their workplaces, you will never be at a lack for illustrations of how to apply the Bible, because they're right there all the time. What else do?
For the record, Bob is not invited to my job ever.
I was just thinking about him. I was thinking about him visiting your workplace, and that's why I was smiling so big, David.